Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is Scott's Comics Retro Review, and I realize that it's long, so you can shorten it however you want. In any case, this is another video where I kind of went out of order from what I initially planned when I started this channel. This is actually a modern comic, it's not a retro comic. The creator, this is an Indiegogo project that I backed, it's the first one that I backed. And the creator behind it spent a long time with the packaging, talking about the packaging. So I'm going to talk about the packaging. I already undid this. I undid it and I read it because I don't really edit my videos. So anyway, he put this in what's known as a Gemini mailer. See that? And I'm giving him kudos for it because he spent so much time talking about it. I felt I should mention that. It shipped the comic just great. It was in great shape when I got it. It was also sealed in a plastic, and I of course undid the plastic and I put everything back the way, as close as the way that I remember it, and it was sealed between two cardboards. And here's the cover. This is Jawbreakers, Lost Souls by Richard Meyer. And it comes, the program I backed, came with a poster, which really like the poster. It's beautiful, by a South African artist named Sashi. And I usually do history while I'm talking about it. So let me tell you a little bit about the history I have with Richard C. Meyer, which he has no history with me. I had first heard about his YouTube channel somehow, some way on YouTube. I had heard that there was a group of comic book creators that were going to follow a YouTube critic around at a comic book convention, and they were going to hurl insults at him to trigger his PTSD so that he would get angry at them, take a swing at them possibly, and have them thrown out of the convention and possibly arrested. And this intrigued me enough that I had to seek this guy out. And that's when I found this channel called Diversity in Comics. He has since changed the name to Comics Matter with your boy Zach. And the reason this book came about was because he was a critic of modern comics. And he still is. But what happened was that somebody at one point threw a challenge at him and said, "You think you could do better, make your own comic." So he went ahead and made his own comic book. That's that. Let me tell you a little bit about the video. You know, when I found his channel, he was talking about the Comic-Con itself. And he said he had changed to make plans to go to the New York Comic-Con because he could just walk there instead of spending train fare to go to the other Comic-Con, which made sense to me. In either case, what happened was I went to the beginning of his channel and I started watching all of his videos, catching up. Now, one of the things I noticed is that he is an ex-military man. And I have military people in my family and friends who are ex-military, some family members who are ex-military. And one of the things about the military is they have a tendency to kind of hurl insults at you and roast you. And he was kind of doing that on his YouTube channel to the creators. This is not the world that I grew up in. I've been a manager for several retail stores, and what they tell you when you're talking about somebody who's performing poorly is you focus on their performance and you don't hurl insults at them. How that works is that, let's say there's somebody who's late. Frequently, I would pull them into my office quietly and say, "Listen, you've been late 3 times in the past 2 weeks. This cannot continue." So I'm not sitting there going, "Hey, you stupid, lazy idiot, you need to get here on time," which is kind of the way like Marines talk to each other, things like that. I've known a couple of people who they had a hard time transitioning back into civilian life because they're used to that. It just became their way of life. And I noticed he did that a lot with the comic book creators. And as a result of that, he's caused a lot of enemies. For my part, when he was actually focusing on the work, I agree with most of what he was saying, the vast majority of it. Um, it was, I don't really get involved too much in fandom, mostly because I don't have time. I'm too busy working, and then I got things to do in my personal life. So I don't have a whole lot of free time to get involved in that. But when I saw his channel and some of the things he was saying, I was like, yeah, this speaks to me. This is kind of what I've been feeling about comic books for a while now. Anyway, to give you an example of the types of things that he says, which I kind of don't agree with, this is Section Zero, which is a book that came out, it started coming out 20 years ago. And the project stopped, and then they started again a couple of years ago again. I don't remember how many years. But it never was completed. So now they're going through it again to do it. All right? This is the third time. And he would sit there and point to this panel and say, am I the only one that knows which side the bullets come out of? And to me, I would just ignore stuff like that because it doesn't matter. What matters is the storytelling clear? And is the picture dynamic? And the answer to that is yes. So I wouldn't care what side of the bullets come out. That's not something that would necessarily really concern me a whole lot. And I meant to show you something real quick, and I forgot to put it here. Hold on one second. My apologies. I'm normally better prepared. I was kind of in a rush. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to show you this. This is, I don't have this book. This is a photo of a cover of another project he did. And I forget Canellis' first name, but he's the artist on it. And what he did was, I don't know if you could see it too clearly, if the camera's going to pick it up. He drew this gun with the flash. And Richard Meyer sent it back and said, can you take the flash out? And then he realized, because the gun doesn't have a flash when you fire it. And then he looked at it and he said, well, it doesn't look as dynamic. So he had to put back in again. So this is the kind of thing that he would do, is that for artistic sake, on his stuff that he's approving, he would say, yeah, okay, put the flash in because it looks better that way. But if Tom Grummett did it, it's because he doesn't know which side the bullets are supposed to come out of. I don't think Tom Grummett really cares. He's a great artist, and he didn't care one way or the other. He just wanted to do a dynamic photo. Anyway, let me talk about the art real quick before I get into the story. And the first thing I'm going to focus on, and not spend a lot of time on it, is the coloring. The coloring was done by Brett R. Smith. Brett Smith is I consider him a good colorist. I don't consider him a great colorist. And I'm going to tell you why, using this panel here, which is the first appearance of Zashi. Well, that's the first appearance of Zashi, but it's the first full picture we have of Zashi. She ends up with a larger role in the book because of this beautiful drawing by John Malin. Anyway, look at this. You can see here, there's sun behind Zashi's head, and see how he beautifully lit that behind his head? So where's the problem, somebody might ask? Well, when John Malin drew this, he drew a shadow from her loincloth from this way, meaning the light's coming from this way, to cast this shadow on her skin. So we're in a jungle. It's the middle of the day or late day, and the sun's here. So how's the shadow coming here? Is that John Malin's fault? I didn't see the original pencils. I don't know if he drew a sun here. But what you've got here is two different light sources. And many, many computer colorists do this. They get caught up in doing things like this, and they forget to service the art, which this is what the artist drew. So the lighting should be from here. Should be coming down on her from here. Another thing that bothers me is when colorists try to mold muscles with their colors. I'm going to point to this specifically because the way this looks is you have the shoulder, right? It goes into shadow, and then the bicep is like up here catching the light. That's not actually the way it would work. The bicep actually folds underneath the shoulder. So the top of the bicep should be at least as dark as the bottom of the shoulder. and it should get lighter as it gets away from the shoulder. And this highlight here should be about here instead. And it's the kind of things that a lot of computer colorists do. They start getting caught up in things and they start doing stuff like that, and it bothers me. What they should be focusing on is like the shape. See how he did it here? Here he just kind of focused on the shape. He didn't bother trying to like paint the muscles in. He's just focusing on the contours of the shape. Anyway, I'm not going to talk too much about colors anymore. He's a good colorist, but he's not great, and it's for reasons like this, okay? Now let me talk about John Malin for a second. John Malin has done books in the past, right? And these are not books that I would normally buy. I mean, I bought Thunderbolts #1 when it came out because Kurt Busiek was drawing it, and Kurt Busiek was writing it, and Mark Badgley was drawing it. And it was right after Onslaught, where a bunch of heroes died. It was good, but I've since dropped, and I haven't really picked up since. So I wouldn't have discovered new talent through these books, because I would only buy a book like Thunderbolts or Cable or even New Warriors based on who the talent was. So the first time I heard of John Malin was when Richard Meyer started talking about him. And he's another good he's a good artist. Don't misunderstand me here, but he's not great. Let me tell you why. This is a giant gorilla that they're fighting. That's the whole plot around this, is this giant gorilla. It's hard to tell, but there's no indication of fur anywhere on this gorilla. I mean, literally. There's a little bit on his shoulder here, you're right. But the rest of it, there's no indication of fur. Let me pull this out. George Perez, from years ago, late 70s, early 80s. And he did have an inker, but look at all the indication of fur on the beast. Look at the indication of fur again on the beast. All right? Then let's skip over to John Byrne on the X-Men. And let's look at the beast here. The whole thing is not covered in fur, but he gives enough of an indication that your mind fills in the rest. And it's the same thing over here, where I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up. There's like a slight indication here. He didn't go crazy drawing fur. He just did a slight indication. And Terry Austin picked up on that and inked it in. Maybe he skipped it and maybe Terry Austin added it. I don't know. Look at this page right here. You see what I'm saying? Okay, now let's look at Ethan Van Sciver's cover. Beautiful cover. Look at the indication of fur. Kyle Ritter colored it. But let's look at the line art. You can see more clearly the fur. Now you don't have to be that detailed on an interior, but you should do a little more than just that. It's throughout the whole book where he does that. He kind of skimps away on the fur. And here's an example where the gorilla's foot gets sliced, and the fur is just kind of lying there. It doesn't fly off in any way, shape, or form. Maybe it happened very fast, but it should have been displaced a little bit. See how it's just kind of straight down? And look here. See that close-up of the beast I showed you before? There's no indication of fur. It's all smooth skin. I also wanted to show you this too. Look at that arm. Can you see that? I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up. But that's about the size of a bone. I know he's supposed to be skinny. See here? You see muscles here. Here, you don't see muscles. It's just like a bone. The story doesn't indicate why. I just assumed he was supposed to be a skinny guy. But if you don't have muscles, you can't really move yourself. They did say that magic takes a toll, so I'm not sure. It looks weird to me. It looks like here there's some muscle and he's very, very skinny, and here is only bone, which is kind of a contradiction. Anyway, now let me talk about the story itself, okay? And I'm going to poke a little fun at Richard. Hey everybody, it's your boy Zach, and here I am doing a review of Jawbreakers Lost Soul. And this is what if the superheroes meet the Expendables and they fight a giant gorilla. Then they would fight the giant gorilla. I poke a little fun of him. Those of you who don't know Zach, you'll hear he does that a lot where he says, like, what if this happened and this would happen? And he makes it seem like, Anyway, those books that he is talking about are bad. And this is not bad. I'm giving this a recommend. It's a fun story. I laughed where I thought I was supposed to laugh at some of the things that was going on. It's not for kids. It's for adults. But it's a fun story that I think almost anyone will enjoy if you just sit down and read it. It's just supposed to be an action-adventure story. That's the first part. It didn't come with this paper. I put this paper here so not to show the last page. But the second part is it's very G.I. Joe-ish, as you could tell, from the 80s. And this was written and drawn by Richard Meyer. And sorry, it's dark. I don't have my glasses on. And Simon Bennett. And apparently what happened was this was a previously published comic. And Simon Bennett took the pages and kind of stripped them down to layouts and kind of drew over them. I don't know what the original looked like, but it is, I think it looks a lot like possibly what Richard Meyer liked. There was one thing I wanted to show you here. There was a panel here that I really, really liked. That's this one. And I don't know who's responsible for it looking like this. But if this was Richard Meyer, then it's better than the rest of it. And quite possibly he could have been breaking out to become a true talent as an artist. But he's not doing that anymore. He's writing. Anyway, there's book 2 of Jawbreakers. And this is by Kelsey Shannon. The art's by Kelsey Shannon. I don't believe Zach did any drawing on this one. I think it was just all, written by, all drawn by Kelsey Shannon. And you can see there's a difference in the art. So I'm pretty sure that, this was all drawn by him and this was all drawn by Kelsey. Anyway, I wanted to give this a recommend. I wanted to give it 2 thumbs up. You have some pinups in the back, some nice pinups. I ordered his second book. And I haven't received it yet, but I will do a review when I get it. And in the description box below, I'm going to post a link to both John Malin's YouTube channel and Richard Meyer's YouTube channel. The thing about it is that when I don't know when you're going to see this, but you may not be able to get this book at this time when he does it. But the YouTube channels will give you updated on all projects and what you can and can't do and can't get. So this is my recommend. Thumbs up. Go ahead and get it. If you can't get it, get his next project. If those are not available, just kind of hang on and catch the projects after that, okay? If you like this channel, please like, subscribe, share. Comment down below. Richard Meyer is a controversial figure, so I'm preparing myself for those who love him to come and attack me, and those who hate him to come and attack me. Anyway, thank you very much. You have a great day. Bye-bye.